That was Lecrae for King and Country with I Still Believe. You're on Rhema 94.9 at 16 minutes past 4. And, of course, Tuesday afternoon, Creation Ministries International. And we are so fortunate to have Mark James back on the line. After last week, who knows what it was, somewhere between New Zealand and Australia, our phone systems had issues, but we got him back. So great to have you, Mark.
Thank you, Mick. It's great to be back. It's great to be able to actually talk to you and you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you really well, actually, this week. It's remarkably good right now. Yes, let's all pray it stays just like that. Now, Mark, last week we were having a pretty cool chat about evolution versus human behaviour, which was interesting. Maybe you'd like to give us a quick rundown on what we spoke about last week, and then we'll continue from there.
Okay, so really what I was talking about was the fact that evolutionists don't really live by what they believe. I mean, they believe that everything is the result of random processes, that it's just natural what's going on. But then they hold us human beings, and we are supposedly part of this natural order. We've evolved from primates over time. But we're held to a different set of standards, I suppose, than you would expect if evolution were true. Yeah. And that's the basis of what we were talking about last week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, everything has evolved from, as far as the evolutionists are concerned, we all come from like a little tiny, virus-looking thing, and everything's sort of grown from there, which means, we've all evolved from the same place that ants evolved from. So, when you're looking at a colony of ants, well, we're just a bigger version of ants, really. That's sort of the way they look at it, in which case, we're about as accountable as an ant.
Exactly. And the thing is, if evolution is true, and we're basically just evolved primates, the results of random mutations and natural selection over long periods of time, then we humans were just another part of nature. And then anything we do is, if you think about it logically, is just nature in action. So if we cause a species to go extinct, it's just natural selection happening. If we burn fossil fuels and there's this runaway greenhouse effect that cooks the planet, and I'm not saying I believe in global warming, that's for sure, but if it were to happen, it would just be a natural occurrence. If there was a nuclear holocaust and we destroyed all life on the planet, it would just be part of this natural process. And in fact, if you think about it logically, if the atheistic evolutionary worldview is true, then everything is natural. And if that's the case, even the word unnatural can have no meaning because everything is natural.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, even if, there's a nuclear war and everybody dies, from their point of view, it would be just natural. But
except that's not the way they live their lives. No. They live their lives as if we do have purpose, if we are supposed to be doing the right things. But this, it's almost doublespeak. They're speaking out of one corner of their mouth about evolution, but then they're behaving completely differently. And it's fascinating to watch. So it certainly is.
Well, we're meant to be good stewards, and in the Bible it sort of alludes to that. So they've kind of taken a few pages out of the Bible, it sounds like.
Very much so, very much so. And I think this is something that Creation Ministries points to a lot of the time. I mean, we're not saying that atheists can't be moral beings. It's just that they have no explanation for why they are being moral, for why they follow rules. They have no explanation for it because evolution would not suggest that that's not what evolution would produce.
Yeah. I mean, mankind has picked up, I think, from the Bible over centuries and centuries, all of these beliefs. Yet the evolutionists have kind of got it half and half, haven't they?
Certainly, and it comes out environmentalists, and this is an area where it really sort of shows out. Environmentalists, people like David Attenborough, Attenborough, who believes in evolution, but then he makes statements like this. He says, surely we have a responsibility to leave for future generations a planet that is healthy and inhabitable by all species. So, in effect, we have this mission, and our mission is to purposely plan for the future of planet Earth. And that's admirable intentions, but it's not what you would expect if evolution was true. And Richard Dawkins, in his book, The Blind Watchmaker, he actually says, natural selection, the blind, unconscious, automatic process which Darwin discovered and which we now know is the explanation for the existence and apparently purposeful form of all life, evolution has no purpose in mind. It has no mind, no mind's eye. It does not plan for the future. It has no vision, no foresight, no sight at all. But somehow this blind, purposeless, natural process has managed to produce human beings that do have foresight and can purposely plan for the future. And there's a disconnect in their thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. Blind.
Yeah, and there's some examples. I wrote an article on this. There's some examples. Things like environmentalists. They'll work tirelessly to save animals from extinction, even animals like lions and tigers that would compete for food with us, and animals that, given half a chance, would not hesitate to drive us to extinction. So from an evolutionary perspective, we're saving these animals that would actually drive us to extinction. So it's the opposite of what you would expect from evolution. In fact, there's a famous saying, Tennyson has this saying about nature red in tooth and claw. But apparently it doesn't apply if the tooth is brushed twice daily and the claw occasionally painted, because it doesn't apply to us human beings.
Yes, wow. I mean, I sometimes think, there's some things on this planet that I'd like to go extinct. Every time I get in the surf, I think to myself, it'd be nice if the sharks were extinct. I mean, they're scary for anyone who goes into the water very often. Particularly recently around Australia here, the East Coast, there's been numerous shark issues over the last 12 months. And so there's a lot of people that are a little scared to go in the water, and they'd probably feel the same way. Then again, of course, a lot of people look at, some of the TV shows we see about, sharks and how apparently they do good in the ecosystem, in the ocean and everything else. So, of course, there's a whole lot of people that say, no, we can't kill the sharks. We've got to look after them. But at the end of the day, seriously, if we were just this evolutionary blip on the radar, if we got rid of all the sharks, it would just be a natural thing.
Yes. And yes, people are definitely concerned about sharks. I mean, we see from here in New Zealand, we see all these reports of shark attacks in Australia, and we don't have the same issue here. But you've got to realise we are living in a fallen world. This isn't how sharks were originally created. There was no death, there was no disease, there was no suffering with the original creation. But since the fall, all these things have started to happen, like sharks that will attack human beings. So it's a result of the fall. Yes,
and I mean, environmentalists, they are all working tirelessly. There's environmentalists that are stopping us from touching the sharks. They don't want us to kill the sharks. There's environmentalists trying to save everything, and very much being the almost the biblical character that we're asked to be.
Yeah, and you know what? It's in our behaviour towards ourselves and fellow humans that this evolutionary disconnect is actually most obvious, and it's probably the most studiously ignored, because we do things like we care for sick people. Now, this is great. I mean, this is what the Bible would tell us to do. But from an evolutionary perspective, basically what we're doing is we're allowing people who are potentially genetically inferior individuals to survive, and these people will use up valuable resources, and they'll reproduce, which will reduce population fitness. So again, it doesn't make sense from an evolutionary perspective. We medically intervene to enable infertile couples to reproduce and pass on their genes, which, if they couldn't have children naturally, there's a possibility that those are inferior genes that they're passing on. But at the same time, healthy individuals will use contraception to limit their offspring, and many healthy individuals will undergo medical procedures to abort the offspring that they've already conceived, which again, from a natural selection, from an evolutionary perspective, where natural selection, the aim is to have more offspring, it just really doesn't make sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my mind just keeps going back to the old, all we've ever proven is that our genetics are actually getting worse. Every generation there's more broken pieces in there. And that's what science has shown us, as in real science. Yet, and the Bible's even shown how people used to live for, hundreds and hundreds of years, and our lifespans are getting shorter. And yet, here we are almost pushing for these, genetic, they're not modifications, they're breaking the link in many areas. And it's certainly not evolution, it's just everything falling apart.
Yeah, there's a very good quote from a population geneticist, and I can't remember his name right now, but he said, looking at the data, looking at the facts, he said, why haven't we as a species gone extinct 100 times over? Now, he believes in long ages. He believes we've been around for a long time. He can see that genetics are decaying before our eyes, and he's saying, well, if we have been around for that great big long time, why haven't we gone extinct 100 times over, I think he said. Yeah. And again, what that points to is the fact that we haven't been around for hundreds of thousands of years, because if we had been around for that long, then we would have gone extinct given the current mutation rates.
Yeah, absolutely. You are on 94.9. It's 28 minutes past 4. We're going into a little break right now, and we'll come back to Mark James very shortly. If you have any questions for Mark James, who's in New Zealand at the moment, please send them through to us on our text line, SMS 0401 949 949. And that was Lauren Daigle with Look Up Child. You're on 94.9. It's 21 minutes to 5. We have Mark James on the line from New Zealand and also from Creation Ministries International, who's been talking to us today about evolution versus human behaviour, where, of course, you have some information on the creation.com website. If you ever want to go there and check it out, you should. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you, Mark, of course, you're from New Zealand. You guys would have also had your Anzac Day just the other day.
Yeah, we celebrate Anzac Day on the 25th of April, and I believe you do the same.
Yes, absolutely. Did you get a Monday off as well?
We got the Monday off. I believe if you have any listeners in Queensland, they didn't get it Monday eyes, so they didn't get Monday off.
Yeah, same with Victoria. Oh, poor people. Yeah, but we're very happy that we got it off.
and so were we.
Yes. Now, Mark, we've been talking about evolution versus human behaviour, and maybe something on a lot of people's minds, Anzac Day, when it comes to warfare, and of course there's wars going on around the world at the moment. But how does the evolution versus human behaviour work with warfare?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because we engage in warfare basically we're looking to kill the enemy, kill people who disagree with us.
Yep.
But at the same time, we seem to enact these rules so that this is done humanely, which just is at odds with it doesn't make an awful lot of sense if basically it's kill or be killed. And I suppose we're at one stage we're trying to kill the enemy, and then when we capture an enemy, our focus immediately changes from trying to kill them to treating them with dignity. And there's actually rules about how you treat a prisoner once you've caught them.
Yes.
But we do that. We treat them with dignity, knowing full well that if they were to escape, then they'd probably they'd be very happy to be able to kill us.
Yep.
Again, these contradictory behaviors just they do not make sense from an evolutionary perspective.
Yeah.
In fact, so many of our intentions, our good and bad intentions, seem anti-evolutionary in their execution. And what I would say is that the Bible actually makes sense of all of this, because the Genesis account of creation and the fall actually provides a logically consistent explanation for our human behavior. Yep. Our best intentions are a natural outworking of the fact that we were created in the image of God and given dominion over His creation. We basically want to look after creation. That's what we want to do. It's just built into us to look after creation.
Yep.
But then we have our worst intentions, and these are a result of the fall, Adam's rebellion. And the evolutionary worldview fails to make sense of so many of our intentions because, as the Bible clearly teaches, we are not the result of evolution.
Do you think some people sort of assume evolution is correct because, we're constantly building on what our forefathers have created or put together from their own forefathers, and look at computing and AI and stuff now. What's being created today isn't because the human is smarter. It's simply because they're building on something that somebody before them has built, and they built that because of something that, we're becoming more technologically advanced, not because we're actually getting smarter, not because we're evolving in any way. We're literally just building on what was there before. But it somehow makes people think we must be evolving and getting smarter because look what we've got now. But no one person has actually, from AI all the way back to the original computer, there's been a lot of people in that line. But do you think people might just assume that evolution must mean everything's getting better simply because we're creating better things? And of course, we believe that's God-given, but is that a reasonable thought?
Yeah, definitely. I think people do look at it like that. They look at the fact that we have all these things today and they say, well, they didn't have them in the past and we have them now, so we must be smarter than they were. And you're right. Basically, what we have today is built on what happened in the past. And our technology advances from over time because we're building on what people have done in the past.
Yeah. Are
we smarter? No. Are we more technologically advanced? Are we more advanced in terms of what we can do? Definitely. Yep. But no, we haven't evolved to be smarter. We've just built, and we stand on the shoulders of what people have done in the past.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. Okay. And I believe you have some testimonials to talk to us about today, Mark.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good opportunity to just talk about Creation Ministries and why we do what we do, and a couple of testimonies that have come to my attention just recently. I've known a young Saudi boy, or Saudi man, for quite a number of years now, and he came from a Muslim background. He has a Muslim father, and somehow he managed to. He was going along to a youth group at a church, and he met a friend of mine, and this friend decided to evangelize him, to talk to him about the gospel message. And this young man started asking questions, and this friend of mine, he's actually passed away now, but this friend started bringing the young Saudi man along to. We had a creationist group that would meet once a month, and we'd talk about creation issues, and we'd watch videos or that sort of thing for an evening once a month. And this young man started to come along. And he was coming along for probably 2 years to this creationist group.
Yep.
And every time he came along, he had questions.
Yep.
He was asking question after question after question. And we'd answer the questions, and then another question would come. And I spoke to him about it once, and I said, "Well, so how are you going in your progress? Do you think you believe? Do you think you've come to the realization that Christianity is true?" And he said, "I'm getting there, but I still have questions." And just over the last month or so, I met him, and I said, "Well, how's it going?" And he said, "I've made a decision to follow Christ.
Oh, really?
I am now
Cool.
a Christian."
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I said, "Okay, so you asked all these questions along the way. I sort of why were you?" Well, I know why he was asking the questions, but he just wanted to go into every detail.
Yep.
And he said, well, he knew that once he became a Christian, he would have to tell his father.
Yeah.
His father is Muslim, and
Yep.
he knows that as becoming a Christian, his father was not going to be happy about it.
Mm.
And he wanted to make sure that he had answers to all the questions, that he had everything sorted out in his mind before he came to a conclusion that it was true and that he could tell his father.
Yeah.
And he said to me, if he hadn't been able to show that the biblical account was true from the very first verse, then he would never even have considered Christianity.
Wow.
So the biblical account of creation was foundational to him being able to say, yes, I believe, but also to give him the confidence to say, I believe so I can tell my father. Now, the sad thing is that his father has cut him off, and he knew that that would probably happen.
Yep.
But he's come to the realization that he has to follow the truth.
Mm.
I'm working for a ministry like Creation Ministries, knowing that he was able to ask all those questions and get answers that made sense both from a scientific perspective, but also from a biblical perspective.
Yes.
Allows him to be able to make that decision in a situation where there was pressure on him to not make that decision.
Yeah.
And that's why I am, you know what, again, I stand on the shoulders of a lot of people who've done an awful lot of work over the years. The Creation Ministries has been going now for close on, I think, 45 years. And over that time, there's been this huge build-up of information, and we continually we are addressing new issues that come up, and the end game is the gospel message. The end game is that people like this young Saudi boy that I'm talking about
Yep.
would come to know Jesus. And to have had that happen, it just, it just reinforces the fact that I know I'm working for a ministry that is making a huge difference in this world.
Absolutely. And we're very, very happy to have had you here. Of course, we're having you back again a little later in the year, I believe. And for anybody who would like to know more about Creation Ministries, you can go to the website creation.com. There's thousands of pages of information, and you can type your questions into their search box on their website and get answers to almost any biblical questions, or questions about creation or evolution, and even stuff about dinosaurs and aliens. It's an awesome resource, right?
Most definitely it is, yes. And I would recommend that anybody, if you've got a question, go to creation.com, type it into the search engine, and you will find lots and lots of information that will help you to answer the questions that you're being asked or that you're asking yourself. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Mark James, for another awesome week. We really appreciate it.
And it's a pleasure. Thank you, Mick, for having us.
You are on 94.9. It is 10 minutes to 5. We've got a song called Too Serious by Don Reddy up right now.